Welcome again to The Insider, the official podcast for the city of Murfreesboro. I'm Mike Browning. Today our topic is Main Street Murfreesboro, celebrating its 40th anniversary in our city and keeping downtown vibrant and growing. And our guest is Sarah Callender, who is the executive director of Main Street. Good to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
This is exciting. 40 years. We can congratulate Main Street for its 40th anniversary, and it's looking better than ever.
That's right. It's pretty exciting to be a part of Main Street during this time and just to celebrate. It's always fun to have a celebration.
You've been doing some research because of the celebration itself. What are some of the things that you discovered in doing that?
Just the history of this organization itself. And if you look back in the 80s and what our downtown looked like with the urban sprawl happening. We had so many vacant buildings around the square. The streetscape was just really deteriorating. And to figure out who those people were that were the backbone of the revitalization movement in the 80s, along with the partnership of the city of Murfreesboro that spearheaded the whole revitalization program through getting a Main Street accreditation, and then just seeing the work that happened, with the collaboration of the small businesses that were a part of downtown during that time, and now looking at it, it's just amazing.
It really is turning a corner, and it is becoming a place where people gather for nighttime dining and going out to restaurants and enjoying the city. You talked about the movement. So this problem that was occurring, the sprawl, into the suburban areas wasn't just in Murfreesboro, right?
Right. It was a nationwide thing with the creation of malls. People were no longer looking at small businesses for individual things they needed. They were going to big box retail stores. And so the National Main Street program was created through the National Historic Register. They created this program to launch in small communities to really spearhead the revitalization movement of historic downtowns, because they saw that the heart of a community is in its downtown, and a lot of communities were drying up when their downtowns would move out, and then the small business owners weren't supported, and so it caused a lot of problems for communities. And so it was something to be acknowledged that our city saw this as a problem and then went after utilizing the Main Street program to start a revitalization project.
What were some of the early thoughts about the solution, how to solve the problem?
Well, through the Main Street program, they were given skills and just kind of a guideline. They had to raise money to hire a director to spearhead it. They had to get the local businesses that were around the square to agree to have the front of their sidewalks shut down for a period of time as they renovated the sidewalks and made them wheelchair accessible, created better parking situations. They moved utilities underground to make it more beautiful, and then really focused on those vacant buildings and what they could do to encourage people to want to have a business downtown. So it took funding, it took support from the businesses and the community leaders and our city government.
Who were some of the people involved at that time?
Well, Ann Davis, who we recently acknowledged as really the heart behind all of this, she worked for the city of Murfreesboro at the time in 1984, and she heard about the Main Street program and went off to Nashville and got the application. The story is she literally had 2 weeks to get the community support of raising $70,000 to pay for the position and to apply for this accreditation. And Nashville only chose a few cities out of the whole state, and Murfreesboro was one of them. So we were on the second round of Main Street programs for the state of Tennessee. And then they had contractors that came and consultants that worked with the city and worked with the businesses. And Dawn Eaton was the first director that was hired right out of MTSU. And so she was really boots on the ground of just walking around and convincing the business owners that this was going to be a good thing in the long run, even though it was going to be probably quite a mess in the beginning. And, Blake Tidwell and Bruce Plummer, Jack Weatherford, there's a whole bunch of them that were a part of banks that all gave low interest loans to the businesses that were around downtown that wanted to improve their facade, because that was a big part of it, was, facades that were falling apart. They were able to take these low-interest loans with all the local banks working together to really improve the downtown.
And some of these folks, I know Ann in particular, were honored recently
Yes.
at one of your meetings.
Right. We had our 40th anniversary celebration, and we were able to give the Doug Young Downtown Leadership Award to Ann Davis. It was quite a surprise for her. She's leading the Christy Houston Foundation right now, and she has done so many things for this community through working with St. Thomas Hospital and different organizations in our community. So it was a neat surprise to be able to acknowledge the work that she had done a long time ago and to see what an impact that she had just by influencing people.
How have we seen our downtown revitalize, renovate over the years?
Well, so physically, I think the first 10, 15, 20 years, it was really focused on just improving the streetscape, making it safer, making it more appealing for businesses and for people to want to come downtown and shop. In the late 90s, the Main Street program nationwide was really focused on creating a sense of place. And so even in our Main Street program, a lot of events were created to draw people downtown to feel like they had a reason to come downtown, and then they were exposed to the businesses that were located here. So a lot of our events that people know of now were created back then in the 90s, the Friday Night Live concerts, the farmers market. And then when COVID hit in 2020, the whole National Main Street program encouraged all of the small communities to focus on economic vitality. And so we really pivoted away from having large events to focusing on how we can help the individual small business owner, because as we know, that was a really hard time for entrepreneurs. And so that is because we have such a good reputation and we've got great events. That's what our Main Street program really is focusing on now, is how we can promote the small businesses and just let people know about supporting them in our downtown.
Is this where Locally Owned began?
That's actually a different organization. That is for all of Rutherford County, and so a small business owner can be a part of that. The businesses in downtown created a small business association back in the 90s, and when I took this position in 2019, they came and asked if Main Street would take that over. So we have a Main Street downtown business membership that businesses can join into, and that helps us to fund marketing for the overall downtown, to pay for advertising and social media and things like that.
What has the difference been now that we've established some big name restaurants and even some smaller ones like Puckett's and others that are attracting more people to downtown? Has that helped shopping?
That definitely helps. I think when you have more of a national chain, we don't want to be like Franklin, where right now they really have an issue where they have so many national chains that the cost of rent is almost too high for a mom and pop retail or restaurant to be in a city like that. And so they're looking at what to do to kind of go back to that, where a small business owner can afford the rent. And so Main Street has a really good, or Murfreesboro has a really sweet spot right now where we have the majority are mom and pop businesses, but we do have a few cornerstone like restaurants and some other businesses that are national chains that they can afford to stay open longer. They can afford to be open 7 days a week, and all that does is support the other businesses that are beside them, because you've got people walking downtown and coming to their business, and so the mom and pop businesses can keep their doors open, because they all need foot traffic.
A great program that begins in May, Farmers Market, brings people uptown on Saturdays. That has been a big success, hasn't it?
It has. That started about 20 years, well, not 20, yeah, about 20 years ago, and it was half the size it is now. They were around half of the courthouse just on one side. In about 2019, we doubled it and got permission to use the entire courthouse inner circle. And so we have over 75 vendors who are set up every Saturday morning, and we extended it from May through October. And that's just a great way. We average 2,000 people every Saturday that come downtown to just walk around the farmers market. And then by doing that, they're going to the bakeries and the coffee shops in the morning. They're staying for lunch. They're exposed to the retail that are downtown.
And it's mostly local.
Yes, they have to be from Middle Tennessee. And to participate in the market, they have to either make or grow or bake their own items. So it can't be something that they've purchased and they're reselling. And so there's a lot of rules that they have to follow. We have to follow the state guidelines for farmers markets.
Now, to set that up, it takes volunteers for your organization, doesn't it?
Well, we have a market manager who works throughout the whole year. She continues promoting it, and she loves the vendors that are participating. We've got some great farmers from around Middle Tennessee that are our cornerstone because people want to come and have fresh vegetables and produce and fruits. And so we've got some really big farmers, and then we've got a lot of smaller vendors. So it takes a lot of work. We operate on a shoestring budget, and so we do have a lot of volunteers, but we have a very small staff, and we get a lot done.
There are still some downtowns that are struggling. I think of some on the West Coast, for example, for a variety of reasons. But Murfreesboro and some other communities in Middle Tennessee are not. What are some of the things that keep that going for Murfreesboro? What's unique about it?
Well, one thing that is great for us is that we have a historic courthouse. So we actually have a square. A lot of downtowns don't even have a square. It's kind of just one street, Main Street. But when people come and visit, they always say something about the beautiful historic courthouse that we have, one of the oldest in the state of Tennessee. And so it's a sense of place. People will travel here to just experience the downtown. We've got Stones River Battlefield, just a few miles down the road. We've got Oakland's Mansion. So the Discovery Center, there's some real unique opportunities for people outside of the community to come here and spend a day and visit and shop and then go back home, which is what I know we love, especially as we are getting so big in this city. But I think really this goes back to just the government and the community working together. It's a partnership of people that are invested in keeping our downtown vibrant, and nobody can do it by themselves.
Right.
So it is definitely a collaboration.
How helpful has it been, the establishment of the museum right inside the old historic courthouse? And how involved were you? I think that was a county endeavor more than a city one, but tell me about that.
Yeah, anytime you can set up a place to acknowledge your past, I think is just great for the future generations to remember where you came from. Dr. Carol Van West with MTSU, our state historian, was very instrumental in that with Bill Jakes, and they did a great job. That's an opportunity to reuse a space that maybe the offices that had outgrown it. I think the IT department were in all of those rooms at the time, and they had outgrown it. And so I give credit to them for thinking outside the box and agreeing to make that into a museum so that people would have a reason to come into the courthouse and to learn about Rutherford County's history, and then it brings more people downtown.
Yeah, if you haven't visited that, you really need to take advantage of it. There's some great artifacts and pieces of history from Rutherford County in that location.
And that also is connected with the Heritage Center, which Main Street shares an office with.
Next to you.
Right. Dr. West oversees the Heritage Center, and I think that's kind of a quiet gem that people don't know about, but they do individual tours. So if you have a school group or just your family, if you have people from out of town and you want to schedule a tour during the week, they have an app that you can download, and it will take you on the tour around downtown, especially in our historic district with all of our homes. We've got a lot of historically registered houses, and so there's just a lot of rich history, and you can do a walking tour.
Yeah, Dr. West and his students do a great job with that. There are other aspects of disappearing downtowns and what Murfreesboro is doing. The sense of community, which you were talking about, which we definitely have. The business district is another one. I think people are probably surprised how many businesses there are.
There are, well, the downtown business district itself is about 30-block radius. So it's a lot bigger than just the square, which we often just say the square, but it's downtown. And there are over 500 registered businesses in that 30-block radius. So lots of entrepreneurs every year, there's new businesses that are starting up. I think one unique obstacle that we have is there's not a lot of vacant space for people who want to start a business, so people get creative, and so there's a lot of businesses that are a couple blocks off of the square and might look like houses. So
like the Mercantile or something
yes,
like
things
that?
like that might be tucked away in between some houses going down to Oakland's, especially out near Bradley Academy. There's a lot of businesses over there, so you just have to drive around and look, but we've got a great ecosystem of entrepreneurs that are looking to have their own business and to start, and they're doing a great job.
In addition to the Friday night live concerts, you also get involved in the Christmas tree lighting, which is a great tradition that
Yes.
people enjoy. Tell us about that.
Well, that's probably my favorite event.
Really?
We do that the first Friday every December, and that's, again, a huge partnership with the city and the county. So Main Street has taken that on, and we collaborate with county elementary schools and city elementary schools to have children join a community choir. And again, we have volunteers on this committee. So we've got school teachers on it. We've got people who just love the holiday season. We've got people representing businesses. Tons of businesses will come out and offer free activities. So everything is free. We've got live reindeer. It's just the sense of a small town you really feel during that event.
And that's the charm about the
It
city.
is. It is. We've even had a snow machine from Middle Tennessee Electric, which was interesting. with
One
the
of
wind.
one of the beauties of Murfreesboro, I think, is that you feel like you live in a small town, but yet we know it's not. I mean, 170,000 populace, and then you see it with traffic. But when you're downtown, you feel like it's that small town.
You do. You walk. It's walkable. We have a great walkable downtown. The other parts of Murfreesboro, you're driving, you're getting frustrated with traffic. But if you just park downtown and then just get out of your car and walk with your friends or your family, there's so many different things that you can see and experience. There's murals you can take pictures with, and places to eat and places to shop, museums to visit. It really gives you the feeling of being a part of a small town. And what's really neat about small businesses is they know their customers. So when you go into a store, the owner typically is going to be the one that comes up to you and asks how they can help you. Or when you're at a restaurant, you're going to see that owner walking around the restaurant checking on people. It's just a neat feeling. You don't get that anywhere else.
As the downtown grows, you've probably also had to deal with infrastructure issues because you've got older buildings, and I know the Center for the Arts, for example, is involved in trying to do some expansion there and gotten some grants. Talk about the infrastructure needs and what's being done.
So Main Street started a property facade enhancement grant about 4 years ago, and we give two $5,000 grants to property owners or business owners who want to update their outside of their building, add new awnings, paint, fix windows. And this year we were eligible to apply for the state's downtown improvement grant, and we were fortunate enough to get that. And it was $300,000, and businesses could apply for it. So we're still going through that process of divvying out the money. But the Center for the Arts is one of the sub-grantees that we're going to give up to $200,000 to. And they are adding a wheelchair ramp and adding a handicap-accessible entrance to the front of their building. And so it's things like that the Main Street program is. It's great because we can get money that's accessible, through the state, and pass it down to these small businesses, whether they're nonprofit or property owners. We've got some property owners that are looking to restore historic windows, and so there's a lot of upkeep with a historic building, and infrastructure is definitely a problem. I know that the city and Main Street we're looking at properties that have vacant spaces inside their building. Maybe the second floors of their buildings are vacant because they don't meet codes with water sprinklers, things like that.
And that's expensive.
And that's very expensive. So the city is really looking into how they can access money to incentivize property owners and to make it easier for them to agree to upgrade their building, to maybe allow living spaces on those second floors, or maybe move some of the law offices up and then have retail on the bottom. So there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of hidden empty spaces downtown, probably because of the buildings being so old, that we're working to solve.
So we might see more people living downtown. And another example of that is the Keystone Project, which is underway. We haven't seen it actually start construction, but we're nearing that, and that's going to bring a lot more people to the downtown area.
Yes, I think that's a key right now. I mean, our nation is in a housing crisis, and so the Main Street program itself is really encouraging all the communities to look at what we can do to help with that crisis. And the Keystone Project is a great example. People want to live in an area where they can walk and they can go eat and they can have entertainment and live near those areas. And so this is a great project. I hope it takes off and is successful. But if it is, it's going to be great for our community because it's going to allow more spaces for people to live. And then that only helps the restaurants and the businesses that are downtown to thrive.
A project that will be starting very soon, and you've seen it cleared already, is Town Creek. What are some of the businesses saying about that project?
I think people are excited about it. And for one thing, it's going to just add such vibrancy to Broad Street. Already, it's just imagine a walkable greenway, the creek showing, to have space where people can go and have picnics and bring their dogs, which also adds to livability. I mean, people usually want to walk their animals or go on greenways, and so just to connect the area near Cannonsburg and the greenway system here in Murfreesboro, which is fantastic. How do you connect downtown to that? And I think that's one way that we're going to just maybe extend our downtown across Broad Street, and we'll have so much more green space because that is important for a downtown and something that we're kind of missing right now.
Yeah, as you even mentioned, with it now cleared, with the demolition that has occurred, you can already kind of envision this vast open space that wasn't there before, where people will be walking and enjoying the water. And the cities that, for example, I know recently Southern Living identified like 20 cities that are on their top list. And if you look at those, all of them are almost near water. They're either near a river, waterway, or near an ocean. And so there's something about that, isn't there, that
There
people
is.
enjoy?
I think we missed the mark a long time ago with not creating more spaces, economic development around Stones River. I mean, we've got a great river. So this is
It's
at
right
least
there.
one way that with this creek will be really neat. Because you're right, people are attracted to walking along waters, and it's just peaceful. It really adds to a sense of place when you want to be outside. And I think now more than ever, people are more health conscious and they want to be outside and not stuck inside. I mean, that's the issue with malls right now. I mean, people want to be outside. And so this is a great asset for our downtown.
And many people don't realize that right near downtown, you can get on the Greenway and walk through Old Fort Park and beyond. You can walk a long way, longer than you could even walk in a day. That's something that adds to the vibrancy of downtown too, that you could just walk from downtown onto a beautiful parkway.
Yeah, and I mean, MTSU is 1 mile from the downtown, and
So you could walk the other way and
you
go to
could.
MTSU.
I don't know if you ever walk around MTSU's campus, but it's absolutely gorgeous, especially
It
on the
is.
weekend. It's just quiet, and we have great bike lanes that connect MTSU to down Main Street, and it's just beautiful scenery to walk around down the historic Main Street and all those houses.
Let's talk a little bit more about the awards. You stood the test of time awards we're
Yes.
giving out to some of the businesses that have been there a while, and I was amazed how long some of them have been around.
I know.
Continuously.
Yeah, that was something we were just trying to think of. What else can we do with the 40th anniversary to celebrate our past? And so I looked at the oldest buildings that were still operating. Maybe they changed ownership,
but they were still the same
but they're still
business.
in the same industry. And I mean, we came up with 13 of them that started a pastime barber and billiard shop was the oldest. In 1904 it opened, and then all the way to 1958 was the newest one that we celebrated. But lots of stories, and so on our website we acknowledge each of those businesses, and you can see pictures of the original buildings, and you can just find out stories about who started them and how they've been passed down.
Which, as you said, a sense of place goes with the past and history and knowing it. And recently, you all invested along with the city on the Big Belly trash cans and the idea of actually putting some history on them. How did all that come about? And, if it originated with you, then you deserve the credit. But it's great that we're putting history on these trash cans.
I think this goes back to collaboration and just having relationships. And Main Street and the city have a great relationship. And so we had been in conversation about the need to update the trash cans around the square. On the city's side, they were dangerous for the workers. Trash was pouring out of them. And so these were examples, the Big Belly trash cans in other downtowns across the country. And they, the street department had discovered that, and so we came with the idea of, well, hey, can we take on the project of putting historical pictures around them to make them more attractive and to make them kind of interactive? And the city agreed, and so we worked with the Rutherford County Archives and the Shacklet Photography. I mean, they're in the archives, and so we were able to use whatever pictures we wanted, and we really worked to have a streetscape of the historic view from, the 1800s, 1900s, and so each trash can, there's a picture from that view of where the trash can is, and then we are telling the story on our website. So again, just great collaboration, and that the city's willing to beautify our downtown and to focus on it, because then people, they really want to keep the downtown clean, right? When you kind of are more aware of these trash cans and you stop and you look at them, it's been a game changer.
Let's wrap up by just talking about where you see things going in the future, the next 40 years. What's on tap?
Well, there's so many exciting projects. I know the city's working on the wayfinding signage. That's in the planning stages right now. And then again with the Keystone project, and there are a lot of developers who are looking at vacant spaces downtown and how they can add mixed-use development, which would be great on the outsides of our downtown area. And so I think 20 years from now, we're going to have more living spaces. We're going to have hopefully a boutique hotel that would just bring people in for an experience that maybe don't want to go into Nashville, but put Murfreesboro on the map. Is just really, we're paying attention to our history. We're not, we're trying to keep it preserved, but we're also moving forward with allowing spaces for new businesses to get started, and we just have a sense of vibrancy downtown.
And just in the last few years, you've seen the changes and that people are willing to invest because they're excited about it. So once this gets started, then the exponential growth is going to occur, right?
It will, and I guess at some point it will cap out, but right now we still have lots of available space to do that, and so I'm glad that the city's working with people that are interested in investing in our downtown.
Very exciting. Sarah Callender, thanks a lot for joining us, Executive
Thank you.
Director of Main Street. It's always good to talk to you.
It's good to talk to you too.
For more information on Main Street or to get involved with Main Street as a volunteer, you can visit mainstreetmurfreesboro.org or email sarah@downtownmurfreesboro.com. This podcast has originated from City Hall on multiple platforms. You can also watch The Insider on YouTube. Special thanks to Michael Nevels, our producer. For more information on the City of Murfreesboro, it's murfreesborotn.gov. You've been listening to The Insider, the official podcast for the City of Murfreesboro. I'm Mike Browning. Thanks for joining us.